Welcome back to T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass. I've got a really fun episode in store for you today. You may have listened to my episode last week with Ken White, the executive director of the IBMA. Between now and the IBMA taking place September 16th through the 20th in Chattanooga, Tennessee, I'm going to mostly have an IBMA-focused episodes, featured episodes between now and then. And wouldn't be surprised if I still have an IBMA theme going on after the IBMA. With that being said, this episode does have a brief mention of the IBMA. And even though it's brief and not a complete focus, it's a very, very, very important conversation and very relevant to the IBMA. And I genuinely hope it comes to fruition. However, that being said, the conversation you're about to hear of myself and Adam Greuel, I guarantee you will be entertained. I'm so confident, in fact, that you'll be entertained, I'm offering a money-back guarantee if you are not entertained. So with that being said, now let's go to my conversation with Adam Greuel. Today we have Adam Greuel, most popularly known from Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. Adam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey there, Trevor. What's happening, man?
Just loving life, talking about bluegrass.
Yes, sir. Bluegrass. Well, that's such a funny conversation. We use the term bluegrass to mean such a broad spectrum of music these days, don't we? Like that's always like I got some friends that are like kind of bluegrass purists, and they always get worked up when you even when somebody calls Horseshoes and Hand Grenades bluegrass.
Oh, I can appreciate that. And, of course, the name of the show is T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass. So the progressive part kind of gives us a lot of leeway.
That's right. That really opens up the box, for sure.
Yeah, you can't define it, really. So
Yeah.
I didn't realize until like 10 minutes before we got on the phone that you just left Blue Ox. You're on the road, likely. It is, for the record, for everybody else, it's a little after 8 a.m. Central Time. And this is the very first T. Shaw's episode to be recorded not only on a weekday, but before noon. So we're setting history here.
Wow. I'm honored to get to be part of that. I like chatting over morning coffee. Like you're sitting with your friend on the front porch. That's where you really get some stuff done. You got that fresh brain. You got that,
well, you don't always have a fresh brain.
Enthusiasm. Yeah, that's true. Well, today I do, man. Today I do. I've been, focused on trying to do my best to, take good care of myself in these, this summer festival season, because you do so many festivals, if you, throw down and party at every one of them, next thing you know, you're worse for the wear come mid-July. So I've been, focused on, taking my vitamins and, drinking lots of water and things like that. So I'm right on bushy-tailed, man. After it was a really fun night at Blue Ox. It was a monsoon. I joked on stage, we need to stop writing songs about water and rivers and stuff, and maybe like write some tunes about like deserts or something to balance.
Or sunny and beautiful.
Right. It sure seems like we get a lot of rainy shows, and yesterday was like, dude, I'm talking like there was like 4 inches of rain on stage.
Oh, man.
I'm not even sure if my pedal board works, I'll have to sort that out at some point.
Man, well, my better half, Catherine, who I talk about frequently, we always joke we can only think of maybe 1 or 2 bluegrass festivals of our lives that we haven't encountered rain. It just goes together hand in hand.
Totally. I was at Telluride Bluegrass Festival last weekend, and it was the first time I've ever been at Telluride where it's just it was basically bluebird skies and really a relatively nice temperature. I think it was 70s every day. But it was funny. It's like we always find a way to complain because to me it was too sunny and hot. I could have used a shower.
At Telluride?
Yeah, man. It was
it's the altitude. You're too close. You're flying too close to the sun, literally.
That's exactly what it was, dude. I know. Like I was out there hanging out with Mimi from Fruition and like Anders from Green Sky was there, and we were all kicking it at Rebirth Brass Band, and we're dancing and stuff in the sun. And at some point I was like, it became wildly apparent I need to go like drink a gallon of water and lay down.
So maybe get some oxygen.
Yes, exactly. You can buy myself a can of oxygen.
That's awesome. Yeah, Telluride for me is a bucket list festival, but I feel like you gotta have a connection on the inside to get there, to get tickets. It's a camping festival, and the campsites are incredibly hard to come by. Not only that, but it's probably 2,000 miles from Chattanooga, so I gotta figure out how to get camping gear there.
Yeah. Well, if you go to Telluride, you need to write the song 2,000 Miles from Chattanooga.
Absolutely. I'll start working on that tonight. That's a great idea.
Yeah, man, Telluride's special. Like, to me, when I was just kind of coming, of age, I was 17, 18, something like that. I went to my first Telluride as as an attendee, and it was just like really formative, for me, like, just kind of feeling that magic that is a bluegrass festival. It's such a special place.
And you had no sense of reference at that point, did you?
Not a whole lot. I had been to some smaller festivals in Wisconsin and Wyoming at that point, but I'd never seen one of these big ones. And, when you first are exposed to, music like Bela Fleck and Sam Bush, and they got the Telluride House Band out there. And actually, that first year that I went, David Byrne, from the Talking Heads,
oh yeah,
was the headliner. And dude, I didn't even know
he was at Telluride.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's amazing.
I mean, yeah, I know, dude. The bluegrass, my favorite bluegrass act, David Byrne.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. So that was really incredible, but. And then Horseshoes ended up, being part of the band competition in, that must have been 2012, so I would have been about 21, then. And it's got a special place in my heart, Telluride does, of course.
So how did that strategy come about? You were a band at this point, you're like, let's play Telluride, let's play the band contest and see what happens?
Well, yeah, at that point, you got to remember, that was 2012. So in 2012, if you looked at like the bands that were the most well-known in the progressive bluegrass world, almost all of them had won the Telluride band competition.
That was the clear path to make a go at it.
It was like, yes, exactly. Like if you wanted to make bluegrass music, a good pathway to help you be able to do that on a national level was to, win the Telluride band competition, or at least just be part of the Telluride band competition. What we found there, Telluride and a lot of these larger festivals, I can think of a handful of them, Delfest being one of them, probably Blue Ox now, back in the day, Northwest String Summit. Those just are like these hubs, these regional hubs for like the intense fans.
Yes.
Like I don't know that we made as many fans at Telluride Bluegrass Festival in the band competition as we did picking around the festival, in Town Park and things like that. And those people, how that stuff works. People go back to their hometowns and tell people about this young band they saw and so on and so forth. And that's how things start happening. And that's roughly what happened with Horseshoes as we started playing some of these bigger festivals, and then subsequently touring, and whatever that would have been 2012 to 2019, we were really grinding.
I think the first time I came across Horseshoes, you were on tour with the infamous Stringdusters, and I'm guessing that was 2013, maybe? Does that sound right?
Yeah, maybe a hair after
Maybe
that.
2014?
Yes, I would venture to say that must have been 2014 or 2015. Because we did a lot. Like, there was a time period where we did so many support shows opening up for the Stringdusters and Green Sky. We were opening for the McCurries. We were opening for Yonder for a while, Railroad Earth. I mean, it was just like we were going, and I think the longest tour was either with Green Sky or the infamous Stringdusters. They're both really long, and of course we bonded really well with both of those bands. The Stringdusters I had a fondness for, because I don't remember how I got it, but I had acquired their first album, like right when it first came out, when
Fork in the Road.
Cobb,
yeah.
Yes. Yep. When
Jesse Cobb.
Yep, because Cobb was a Wisconsinite. So
That's right.
May have been the tie. I think that may have been the tie. He's from the small town of Dairyland, Wisconsin. I always thought that was a funny name. Dairyland, Wisconsin.
Was it a dairy town? I assume.
Yeah,
a lot of cows in that town.
Wisconsin, in fact, is, Trevor, right now, my cooler, it's like a normal size cooler. I can't fit any food in it because it's stuffed full of cheese, because I'm going to Wyoming and I'm going to see a bunch of friends, and like they're inevitably going to ask if I haven't brought any cheese. So,
it's the ambiguous gift coming from Wisconsin. It's required.
I'm just obliging, man. Just like, okay, I'll bring a cooler of cheese, I guess.
Oh, that's funny.
But anyhow, yeah, man, like I came upon the Dusters, and so like I'm talking like early in high school. Like I remember working my high school job, which was like, basically like doing landscape, like janitorial type work at the high school. I remember listening to that record. So they've been part of my life basically since they started, and so it was really an honor to be out with them and get to learn from them. They're a little bit older than us, and had already been through the world of touring, and they were, they still are. They're such wonderful advocates for young bands, and they want to help you along, which I admire that. Like there's something really cool about people who are more successful and know more and are perhaps more skilled, but they're also very willing to share that with with younger folks, like, because some people aren't that way, and that's
agreed.
That's tough when it's that way, but the Dusters are very, very sweet, very sweet.
Yeah, they're one of my absolute favorites, and that's how I came across you. And I got to sidetrack just slightly because you brought up Jesse Cobb. Every time I listen to older Dusters and Jesse goes into a break, I find myself yelling out, "Jesse Cobb!" I can't help it because it just surprises you when you hear a mandolin in the Dusters. It's been so long, like 12 years or something since he was in that band, that, when you're hearing the old stuff and that pops up, it just always grabs you.
Yeah, totally.
And Jesse's bands now, the Unfaithful Servants, are amongst the Bluegrass Ramble at IBMA that the Stringdusters are also playing at the festival. And as far as I know, it is the first time since Jesse's departure that they'll be in the same place at the same time, potentially. I mean, it's a week long.
What could it mean?
I'm just saying this could be a
Are
really,
you
really.
planting rumors?
I'm not planting any rumors. I'm just stating what I've noticed, an observation that those two bands will be in the same location potentially.
A simple deduction is all. You're
Just
just
saying.
deducing.
Just
Yeah.
saying.
I love it. Well, that'd be cool to hear them all jam together, man.
And now we'll take a quick break for a message from our sponsor.
1, 2. It's a big purchase, it's a big deal. Cherish all, know exactly how you feel for refinance or a new home. Cherish all will help you get your loan. Cherish all will help you get your loan.
Hello, I'm Trevor Shaw. I'm not just a bluegrass aficionado. I'm a bluegrass aficionado that's a mortgage loan officer at Chat Mortgage in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'd be honored for the opportunity to help you get your residential mortgage loan or refinance anywhere in Tennessee, Georgia, or Colorado. From veterans using their hard-earned benefits to first-time home buyers needing down payment assistance to retirees finally getting the home they've always dreamed of. Call or text me today at 864-50-T-SHAW. That's 864-50-T-SHAW.
It's a big purchase, it's a big deal. Cherish all, know exactly how you feel for refinance or a new home. Cherish all will help you get your loan. Cherish all will help you get your loan.
Chat Mortgage is powered by Almeida Mortgage Corporation, NMLS number 271603. Chat Mortgage is located at 6650 East Brainerd Road, Suite 208 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Phone number 423-591-9801. Trevor Shaw, NMLS number 929381.
There's just so much great music happening right now, man. It's like at times it's overwhelming, you know, like the genre has expanded to such a great degree, you know, and I feel like I used to know most bands that were touring around, you know, and now I'm like seeing all kinds of names, and I'm like, man, I don't know who that is.
And speaking of touring, something that I've noticed, especially since post-COVID, you know, you guys used to do national tours, and, you know, everybody in the scene used to do national tours. And I've seen that, and they would have opening bands, and you'd be exposed to new bands that they'd go on tour for 2-3 weeks at a time. But since COVID, what I have really recognized, there are exceptions, the bands that are bringing in legitimate big revenue. But all the tours pretty much seem to be very regionally focused now. They'll do, you know, where kind of they're based out of, like Horseshoes and hand grenades. I think every show on your tour list right now is based out of Wisconsin or the surrounding, maybe Minnesota.
Yeah, Midwest, yeah, for sure.
And is that just because the cost of traveling has increased, or do you think there's a reason behind that I'm seeing that with so many bands?
I mean, I think there's you know, like most things in life, there's many parts of that conversation, and some of them relate specifically to Horseshoes, and others are part of a broader context. You know, with regard to Horseshoes, you know, we several of the members have chosen to take a certain path, you know, in life where, you know, that's also dictated the path of Horseshoes. So, you know, there's young Horseshoe children now. There's actually 4.
Oh wow!
No, there's actually 5, soon to be 6 Horseshoe children. So,
wow.
Yeah, so, you know, that changes the way that you do things. And I'm actually the only full-time musician in Horseshoes. The rest of the guys have other jobs, so that limits your ability to do these larger, longer tours, and kind of turns you into more of a weekend warrior type vibe. But, you know, that's really worked well for us. It suits the personalities in the band quite well. Now, that's the microcosm, you know, of Horseshoes and hand grenades. That's part of our story.
Okay.
I think the bigger picture, in my opinion, is you know, the bluegrass scene, I think, was bolstered there for a time period, and it really expanded, you know, specifically in like that I don't know, 2015 to 2018, 2019, it's like there was like a lot of people interested in, you know, progressive bluegrass. And I'm not certain that that has maintained. And also, I think, you know, people being freaked out about going out post-COVID, like something's changed there too. Like, in short, I think it's trickier to sell tickets. I think it's harder, you know, and you hear everybody's talking about that. You know, the other thing about being on the road, like, and it used to be hotel rooms were cheap. It just made sense to play a show, you know, and these days it's like, it almost makes more sense for bands to fly home and be home for 3 nights instead of getting hotel rooms on that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
No kidding.
So then you don't get these long tours, you know, like it used to be. So
I imagine that's a better quality of life too for the musicians if they can be home
perhaps
during the week and then hit the road for 3 or 4 nights at a time. If it makes costs more effective, I guess that makes sense.
It could be more healthy for sure. You know, I hope, of course, that that bluegrass, progressive bluegrass, continues to thrive. You know, you see the success of Billy, and you know, it clearly, there's clearly folks in the scene that are into bluegrass. But I don't know. I mean, you know, a lot of us, you know, the mid-size type bluegrass acts are having, you know, a trickier time, and smaller festivals are having a harder time selling tickets too. So it's a tricky thing. And like, you know, I think if people want bands to survive, you know, and continue to tour around, gosh, buying advance tickets, supporting albums when they're released, and, you know, that stuff really is important. I know, like, you know, folks like you who are really in the scene and have a lot of friends that are musicians and stuff like that, you know that. But I think, you know, oftentimes the average day-to-day sort of fan maybe isn't as in tune of like, okay, actually buying this ticket in advance, buying a CD, like, that stuff really matters.
I think a lot of the casual fans just assume if you're on stage, you're a rock star.
Yeah, I know, it's comical. And you know what, dude? Like, I often have thought of that too, like growing up, thinking that thinking that bands that I loved were like I don't know if in my head if they were like millionaires. You know what I mean? But
you certainly didn't think they were couch surfing or sleeping in the back of a van.
No, not at all, dude. Like, it was totally like my vision and understanding of that was like super jacked up. I don't know where that comes from, but yeah. So I don't know, man. It's an interesting climate, and so like you have to evolve with it, of course, and that's where, you know, managers and agents and stuff help to, you know, kind of understand this broad context that we're in the time and space, you know, and certainly like the political climate right now with tariffs and stuff, like, you know, the tariff thing I think is drying up some sponsorship money. Like, you know, you get these like you know, concert series that are funded by like local sponsors. If there's not that's, you know, if people, businesses don't feel like they have that, you know, disposable income, quote unquote, to put towards, you know, music sponsorship, putting on music events, then those little concert series are drying up too. So it's a really interesting climate right now for sure. And, you know, at the end of the day, you just try to focus on making music and making people happy, and, you know, think about the business stuff when you have to, but try to focus on the joy of it all, I suppose.
Obviously, you have adapted. You had mentioned you're the only full-time musician left from Horseshoes. You've got a lot of additional projects, and I want to talk about some of the other bands that you've got involvement in, or personal projects you've got involved in. What, in your opinion, I'm going to mention them all, but what's the biggest one to you right now of your side projects?
Man, they're all like, you know, they're they're probably all about equal, all of my stuff, you know, and they're I equally love them all. You know, sound like a
So there's not one that's more focused on than the others. You don't have.
Not really, man.
Okay.
Not really. It's I feel like you know, I got Horseshoes and hand grenades. Obviously, I've got the High Hawks, which is my project with you know, Vince Herman from Leftover Salmon and Tim Carbone from Railroad Earth, Chad Staley, Ryan Adams of Will Trask, kind of a country rock and roll project.
How high are the High Hawks?
It depends on the night, but sometimes extremely high.
How did you come up? How did you come up with that name?
I recall a phone call with myself and Vince Herman and Chad Staley, and it was just like, you know, everybody's probably, you know, sitting at their kitchen table smoking their own doobie, and you know, just talking about possible names for this kind of pet project idea we had. And I don't know, I can't remember who said it, but we were like, boing, that's it. So we are the High Hawks. For a while there, I had these little wings. I was putting on these little wings every show, but that got a little too weird.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because just out of curiosity, when I was doing a little prep for this show, I looked up what altitude does a hawk fly at, and I learned that a fellow raptor, the Rappel vulture, is the highest flying bird and can reach over 37,000 feet.
37,000 feet?
So the high 37,100 specifically, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correct. Rappel vulture. Yeah, it apparently has a special hemoglobin in its blood, so it can harness oxygen from extremely thin air, and can ride currents up to 37,000 feet.
Maybe that's what Vince has.
But it seemed very appropriate that a raptor bird is the highest altitude bird there is. So
yeah,
you chose
really
wisely.
Cool. I don't know that we get that high, but we get kind of high, man.
Well, a red-tailed hawk can see a mouse from 100 feet up. So
really?
Yeah, in comparison. The things that I come across in show prep.
Yeah, that's cool. Hawks are cool, man, and beautiful, but yeah, you know, so that's a really groovy project, man. We came out with 2 albums. The most recent was Mother Nature's Show, and really fun to make. We got to run. We're gonna do a Midwest run this fall. I think it's like the Majestic Theater in Madison, Wisconsin, Garcia's in Chicago, the Pines Festival, I think, in St. Louis.
Okay.
And it's like some 420 harvest party thing in Peoria, Illinois. So excited about that. You know, and then there's Rucksack Revolution, which is kind of like a, you know, Gillian Welch, David Rawlings inspired singer-songwriter type project that I do with Sarah Voss from Dead Horses. Who's a wonderful songstress and friend. That's who I was with playing out there in Telluride this past weekend. That's really fun. We dropped an album too. And then there's you know, my band of merry makers called Adam Greuel and the Space Burritos. We're kind of a country rock thing in the Midwest.
Another very high name, it sounds like.
That came from, you know, my love of the Flying Burrito Brothers, and also, as I'm sure you know from being down in the Chattanooga area, you know, the great Colonel Bruce Hampton, Space is the Place. You know, it's a highly improvisational type project, so we thought the Space Burritos might be appropriate. Some people seem to hate the name, but that just makes it a little more lovable.
I think it's fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know why it gets under people's skin sometimes, but whatever. And what else is there? Okay, and then there's also a kind of a comedy project that I'm doing with Charlie Behrens, who's a Midwestern comedian. He's kind of known across the country. Him and I have dropped 2 albums under the moniker Behrens and Greuel, kind of a play on like Brewer and Shipley or Brooks and Dunn, and that's groovy. And then last but not least, a project with I know a good friend of yours, Kyle Tuttle, and also Jared Poole, called Tuttle, Poole, and Greuel.
Now you've done one album with Tuttle, Poole, and Greuel, and you're having, is it a reunion show or shows this year?
Yup. We're getting the boys back together. We released Cosmic Nudge. That was a pandemic era record. There's some pandemic themes on that album, but there's also just a bunch of other stuff. That was recorded totally on a whim, man. Like, I called up Kyle and Jared, and I was like, hey man, I have 3 days booked at Pachyderm Studios in Minneapolis. You guys want to fly into Minneapolis? I'll pick you up. Let's make a record.
That's awesome.
We had no material whatsoever, and we just went in the recording studio and recorded, and had a lot of fun doing it. And, that was. I hope we can do another one. I love working.
Did you have once they said, yeah, let's do it, did you communicate in advance, like via email, or I'm working on this song, or did you literally just show up and be like, well, I got a few songs in my pocket, what do you got?
Well, dude, we just showed up because I called them it was like a day or two before,
So zero ideas of rehearsal in advance.
Totally. Dude, what had happened was Sarah Voss from Dead Horses showed up to Pachyderm, and I made some salmon. It's just her and I. It's like Pachyderm, there's like a studio house, then there's the studio, and I had the key for both the house and the studio. The engineer and caretaker wasn't there, but then the kid left me a key. So I made salmon, and we made a cocktail. We maybe had one cocktail up there, and then made another one. And we were walking down to the studio, and I'm holding one guitar, and I think Sarah was somehow holding 2 guitars and the cocktail. And there was this long driveway, and it was on somewhat of a hill, and it was slippery. And we kind of scooted down that hillside. We made it all the way down to the bottom to what would appear to be, safe, nice and flat. It didn't seem slippery down there. Well, we got down to the easiest part. Sarah hit an icy patch, and she took a digger. She fell real hard. And she was holding this cocktail. I always love to say, she somehow didn't spill a drop of that cocktail.
Pro play there.
Dude, but she did fall on this guitar case, and she broke a couple ribs and punctured a lung.
Oh my
gosh. It was it was pretty wild. So we ended up, she kind of thought she was okay. She had, I think it was adrenaline, and we went to the studio, and then it slowly became apparent something was wrong with her. And so anyhow, we took care of her, and she went to the hospital and things like that. But I still had this time booked, and I could have canceled it, but instead that's when I called Jared and Kyle. So I don't even know that it may have just been one day. They might have flown in the next
what are you
day.
doing tomorrow? Get to Minnesota.
Well,
I got a studio.
It was a pandemic, so they're like, whatever, screw it, They flew in.
That is an amazing story. I'm
the record might have never happened,
That is an amazing story. And so, all right, I mean, now this just opens up other questions. So you had 3 days in the studio. Was the first day just kind of sitting around, what are you working on? This is my material. Or did you pretty much an hour in hit record? How'd that break down?
I think we just went for it, man. I think I feel like we all had these ideas for songs, on a personal level that we might record at some point. just kind of taught each other the songs, maybe made, some charts, and then recorded them until we felt good about it. And, we had somehow, I forget exactly how this shook down, but somehow during the pandemic, Kyle and Lindsay had gone up to the UP of Michigan to their Lindsay's family cabin, which is only I don't know, hour and 45 or maybe 2 hours from where I grew up. And I met them up there just to kick it. And of course, we were picking and writing, when I came up, as musicians do. And that's when, now that I'm thinking about this, that's when Settling Down got written. I had the idea for that song and then finished it with Kyle and Lindsay. It's the one, that slow one. It's like settling down, settling in. And then me and Kyle, Lindsay went off to see her family or something, and then me and Kyle wrote that whole pandemic suite thing that ends the record, Fever Dreams and Play It Again. So we wrote all those songs up at Lindsay's family cabin. So that stuff was all ready, although at the time when we were writing it, we didn't know that we were going to be recording it.
That's cool. Serendipity, I guess.
It really was. It kind of all came together. And that happens with, how that goes. That happens with album things, the music things, the life thing. Things kind of just fall into place when they're supposed to, and they fall out of place when they're not supposed to.
And during 2020, towards in the pandemic and even into 2021, you did a handful of shows together, correct?
So
I guess you did a speakeasy festival. We don't have to get anybody in trouble on that one. But there was Kyle Tuttle's birthday show, but I think there was a handful of additional shows.
Well, what had happened was we played 4 or 5 shows in early March of the pandemic. In fact,
before everything shut down.
Right before. Dude, our last show was the Sunday before the Tuesday that everything shut down. So I remember, dude, this didn't age well, but we were, on that tour, and at the time it was in the news, and we were just kind of making fun of it, as you do with news stories.
Well, because nobody knew how big of a deal it was. It's take a couple of weeks off and everything will be fine.
Right, and we played in Kokomo, Indiana, because I remember I think we opened the show with "Going to Kokomo," the Beach Boys song.
Perfect.
And I'm sure the crowd was thoroughly amused.
A joke they've heard a million times, right?
Right. And then, at that show and after that show, I had been drinking tequila Paloma. Yeah, I love tequila, and I was just whacking these Palomas. And I was hungover on that Sunday, and we were playing at, the iconic Mousetrap in Indianapolis.
Fantastic.
And on stage, so at some point that day that a joke had started that I had the Paloma virus.
Oh.
So we're joking that entire show about me having the Paloma virus.
The self-inflicted Paloma virus.
Exactly. And then, it was that next Tuesday that the world shut down. And we're like, okay, that didn't age well.
Very short shelf life on that joke.
So then we, the pandemic happened, and I think somewhere in there we played, a couple festivals, and then there was Kyle's birthday. But then Kyle, got the call to do the
Golden Highway, yeah.
Then everything got real busy there, and now we have a chance to reunite to do, we're doing Rhythms on the Rio in Del Norte, Colorado, and also Keystone Bluegrass and Beer Festival in Colorado, and then we're doing River Wondergrass together.
I wish I could make
And,
that one. That's going to be a special one.
I wish you could too. You'd be a fun dude to hang out with on the river.
First time I met Jared Poole, his first gig was on the river with Larry Keel.
But not at River Wondergrass.
No. It was lower fork of the Snake River. It was the Salmon River. I make that mistake a couple times. My apologies. The Salmon River. Where
That's right.
A catered trip, and it was the first time I met Jared. I was probably the first Larry Keel fan to recognize him and introduce myself. I met him at the airport on the way there, and it was his first gig.
Oh, that's cool. He's a great dude, man.
He is.
Nice. That's a cool memory, man. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to get back with those dudes, and I really hope that we can create another record, because that first one was fun, man. It's always that's one of my favorite things to do is make albums. So hopefully get to pump out a couple in the next year or two.
I would think now that you've had 5 years since the first album was completed with literally no time, you guys surely in the back of your mind when you're writing songs or working on things, you might think this would be cool with Tuttle, Poole, and Greuel.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. Kyle's such a unique player, and him and I have that. I was big into Early Yonder and big into Jeff stuff, and of course Kyle played with Jeff, and so we've kind of got that thread together, that kind of grittier love of that sort of grittier style of bluegrass.
That's awesome. So there is potential. Nothing's on the books, but there's potential that could resurrect itself and maybe do additional shows now that Kyle's schedule's a little, maybe head the other side of the Mississippi.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I'd love to get down and do stuff again with him. We'll just see how the cookie crumbles, man. But yeah, you were asking about the if there's focus on any of the projects, and the truth of that is, like, they're all part of my life, and I really do love them all. They kind of scratch different itches. Like, I love that country rock and roll vibe with drums. I love the old time string band vibe with Horseshoes. I love the progressive bluegrass thing with Kyle and Jared. I love doing the comedy thing with Charlie, and the more mellow folk music with Sarah. I'm really pleased and lucky to get to play with some unbelievably talented people in various projects. It's really a mood.
That's outstanding. Well, for my listeners and anybody that's knows me on a personal level, I'm kind of a guitar nut, and your primary instrument, at least with Horseshoes, is guitar. What kind of guitar guy are you? What's your go-to?
I play Bourgeois Guitars.
Okay.
I love them. Yeah. They're built so damn well.
Andy Falco plays Bourgeois now.
Yeah. Yes, he does. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's part of that. He got he turned me on to him to some degree. Actually, man, it's a trip. This is going to be an interesting story, but
perfect.
Basically in college, that would have been maybe, I want to say junior year of college. I took this English class, and I went to this English class, and I knew that English professor was a Horseshoes fan. He would go to shows, and so I thought it might be cool to take his class. Well, turned out like we didn't really get along very well. I didn't really like his class. Like, there was some kind of strange energy there, and I'm sitting there in my house planning to skip that class, my college house, and I'm sitting there in my boxers and I'm about to smoke a big old bowl, and I see this guy walking past the house, and it's that professor, that English professor. And keep in mind, I knew that he had been at shows and stuff like that. Well, morning coffee brain, sort of high Adam busts out the front door onto the porch in my boxers and says, "Hey, Professor Arnold, do you want to come in and smoke a bowl?"
He was just walking by randomly?
Just walking by. Going to the class I was supposed to be in.
And you weren't really vibing with him at this point?
It's not that I wasn't, it just wasn't working, whatever. And I needed to, I think class maybe wasn't right, I don't know.
But stoned in nicotine, or not nicotine, but caffeine high.
Coffee.
Yeah.
So I bust out, and he says, "Well, sure." And he comes in and he sits down and we're smoking, and he ends up canceling the class that day. And
my strategy worked perfectly, is what you're thinking.
Right. And I tell him that I was going to go to Spruce Tree Music, Madison, Wisconsin, on a quest for a guitar. I think I had saved $1,200, and I was going to go buy my, stage guitar, Spruce Tree. And he was like, "Well, hey, before you do that, I've got this guitar, at my house. You should come over and drink a beer and check it out." And so then we go from my house to his house, and we start drinking. This is like noon. We start drinking Natty Lights and hanging out and picking a little, and he brings out this guitar, and it's the Bourgeois Vintage D.
No way.
And it's a Canon, an awesome guitar, and I know it right away. And he goes, "Well, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Well, I love it, And he's like, "Well, how much money do you save?" And I was like, "Well, $1,200. He's like, "Well, it's worth quite a bit more than that, but look, I'll give it to you for $1,200. You guest list me to any shows moving forward."
That's a lifetime. That's a lifetime ticket right there.
Totally. And so, of course, I agreed. And that became my stage guitar. It was named Bender. And we had many wonderful years together from about 2013. About 10 years we were together. It was either 2013 or 2014 to this last August. And man, I haven't really told this whole story, but basically, man, I got in a really bad car accident, and my car exploded.
Oh no!
And that guitar was in it.
Oh, that's tragic.
And so was another guitar. And all my fishing gear, and coincidentally all of my clothes too, because
But you obviously got out alive.
Well, as far as I can tell, I'm still alive.
I mean, this could be a dream. This could be the Matrix or something. But you think you got out? Yeah.
Right. So yeah, Bender, the guitar, is gone. But I'm happy to be alive after a pretty brutal car accident. And I called Bourgeois in the wake of that, and had some wonderful conversations with them, and they were extremely helpful and extremely kind. And they hooked up a Bourgeois Touchstone Signature D, which is a great guitar. And so I've been playing that and loving that. And at some point, a friend of mine this is wild. A friend of mine found a guitar in Canada that was 2 serial numbers away from my original Bourgeois.
No way.
Uh-huh. And it plays and sounds exactly the same because it's probably the same tree.
So you got it. I assume you got it.
Yeah, I have it.
That's awesome. That's as close to resurrection as possible.
I know, dude. I know. I told you it was a weird story, man. It was kind of crazy.
How did he come across it? And how did he like say, hey, there's a guitar like your old one? What was the serial number? Do you remember? I mean,
well, I had all that written down because of like insurance stuff.
Okay.
Like that. And my buddy just like, I'd gone through this like super traumatic, terrible time, and of course my friends felt really bad and were trying to be helpful. I was so attached to that guitar. Again, it was named Bender.
Right.
And Bender was like, it's interesting because Bender was the guitar of my youth when I was traveling really hard and partying pretty hard too. Like Bender was left out in the rain and stuff. Like it was
Wow.
It was not. It wasn't, when it passed, it wasn't in the greatest health. But it was a great sounding guitar, and I'm happy to have been with it for, the years that I was. And, you can't, one thing that crazy incidents is like what happened to me. One thing that those types of things do to you is it makes you less possessive. You're like, well, things come and go in life, and it's nice when you get to interact with them. It's like lost love. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it was nice that you could be with somebody when you're with them, and you have wonderful times, and you appreciate those times, and then you move on. And that's been my lesson of the last, that was about a year ago or whatever that I got in that accident.
Was that recent?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it brings you back down to, down to earth, and like, gosh, you're grateful for every breath, and, things matter a little less, and friendships and love matter a little more, and, there's always silver linings.
It's fantastic that you can recognize that.
Yeah,
that's pretty special.
Man. There's so much that this life is, what an experience it is to be alive and to get to live and to learn from your friends and your family, and just every day, man. Every day is a lesson, and what a road we're on,
That's awesome. Love to hear it. One more thing I want to mention before we completely forget. In your email signature, you list most of your bands, but you also list Wisconsin Waters Music and Fly Fishing Company.
Yeah.
Tell me about Wisconsin Waters Music and Fly Fishing Company. That's an interesting combination.
Yeah.
Is it just so you can have one LLC? go fishing and playing guitar?
Yes, is the answer there. Also, fly fishing is the way that I balance the chaos of being on the road. You're out there, hustling and doing, everything's so quick and speedy, and you're just always going. And for me, it's really important to get home and hit the river and kind of zen out, take a break from everything, and I've also found that I really enjoy when I'm out on the road touring. I really enjoy getting on a river and getting to experience different places too, out there. And nothing more calming than being on a river. And I'm gonna be on a river tonight, man. I just literally am looking at the Welcome to South Dakota side. I'm heading out west here for some shows. some recreation. But yeah, I do some fly fishing guiding, man. You know, I enjoy,
Do you?
you know, yeah, I enjoy, teaching the sport, activity or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it seems like it's a good thing for people. It's a good conduit to getting outside and, experiencing nature. We don't get so locked into our damn cell phone and, don't spend enough time playing out in nature.
That is really cool. I had no idea you did that. So we can book you for.
Yes, you sure can. You can book me via email, and well, gosh, Trevor, you're right down in Chattanooga. You can throw a rock and hit a trout from your place.
Yeah, probably actually. And I hate to keep telling stories about me because it doesn't matter, but my only fly fishing experience coincides with what we've already talked about. Was on that river trip with Jared Poole that I mentioned.
Oh, nice!
And
was that good fishing down in the snake? I've never actually fished.
Oh my gosh, it was great. Larry had so much fun because he's quite the fisherman, and you just fished from the boat all day long, and then the guides would say, "Hey, reel them in. We're about to hit some rapids," and then 5 minutes later, go back to fishing as we rolled down the river. And I had bought my fishing license not having any knowledge of fly fishing. And it was like the last day or second to last day. I'm like, well, if I'm going to fish, I better do it. I was intimidated with, people like Larry Keel. But Jeremy Garrett was on that trip too. And I ate my breakfast super duper fast so I could go squeeze in 15 minutes of fly fishing. And I asked Jeremy, can I borrow your reel? He goes, yeah, I got this fly on there. I really, really like it. It's my favorite one I found on this trip. It's awesome. Have at it. Good luck. My cool, thanks. So I skip out of breakfast, and my very first cast, the fly gets caught in the rocks behind me and snaps off. And I came back, and I was so sheepish and felt so bad because he's bragging how much he likes this fly. And I didn't even get like a single cast, and that was like the end of my fly fishing experience.
Well, and I'll tell you, that's basically sums up fly fishing in general. A lot of lost flies, man.
Yeah.
A lot of lost flies. That's a great story, though. I imagine Jeremy Garrett was probably like super mellow about it because he's the most mellow dude on planet Earth.
He was very mellow about it, but after preaching how much he enjoyed that fly, he was also like, ooh, shit.
Damn it, T-Shaw.
So I've never caught a fish fly fishing, but I have technically been fly fishing once. So I'd like to explore that.
I'd love to go anytime with you, brother.
So all right, as we wrap things up, is there anything going on in your life that we haven't talked about that you want to get out there to the public?
Oh man, just really appreciate folks coming to the shows when I'm in the neck of the woods with any artist, and appreciate when people support the records that we release, and not just mine, honestly, anybody who's out there hustling in our scene right now. It's an interesting climate, for recorded music, and people buying the vinyls and the CDs and stuff is just so helpful, and we really, really very much so appreciate it. And, yeah, man, I don't know. I hope to see people out and about, man. I love touring America. And beyond. I love seeing this country, and I love, seeing people all over it. I believe in love, and hopefully, we can, continue to make that a focus moving forward as a country, and we can work towards that more and more, every day, and make choices that reflect that, from a political standpoint, from a social standpoint.
It's been an honor to have you on here today and tell us about the experiences and the stories. And I'm hoping I can help get the word out, and we have some existing fans learn something new today and some new fans that don't know it yet and get a chance to catch you in any of your several projects. And of course, pick up the albums as they come out too, and support Bluegrass and the other sounds. Support live music. How about that? So,
Americana.
That's right. That's right.
Right on, man. Hey, I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate talking, and just appreciate you, man, and your good vibration, and appreciate everybody who tunes in as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. I hope you guys had as much fun as I did talking to Adam Greuel. Such an entertaining individual. So next week, I'm going to get back to big, heavy IBMA focus. Going to have Randy Steele of Randy Steele and the High Cold Wind, and Randy Steele, singer-songwriter. It's going to be a really exciting episode. I'm looking forward to it. We are definitely going to talk about the IBMA, but we're also going to talk about what's going on in his career, what's coming up with High Cold Wind. There's been a lot of cool changes going on. I'm super excited for them in the future, but thank you. We really appreciate you enjoying T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass. I'm T. Shaw, Trevor Shaw. Hope you come back for more. If you like what you hear, tell your friends, tell your family, tell anybody who you think might enjoy listening to T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass. And please stick around after this for a message from our sponsor. The sponsor is me. No surprise at this point. I'm a mortgage lender in Tennessee, Colorado, and Georgia. And if you live in one of those three states and want to talk mortgages, please give me a call. 864-50-T-SHAW. That's 864-50-T-SHAW. If you like what you're hearing today, don't hesitate to leave a review. And looking forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much.
One, two. It's a big purchase, it's a big deal. Trevor Shaw knows exactly how you feel for refinance or a new home. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan.
Hello, I'm Trevor Shaw. I'm not just a bluegrass aficionado. I'm a bluegrass aficionado that's a mortgage loan officer at Chat Mortgage in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'd be honored for the opportunity to help you get your residential mortgage loan or refinance anywhere in Tennessee, Georgia, or Colorado. From veterans using their hard-earned benefits to first-time home buyers needing down payment assistance to retirees finally getting the home they've always dreamed of. Call or text me today at 864-50-T-SHAW. That's 864-50-T-SHAW.
It's a big purchase, it's a big deal. Trevor Shaw knows exactly how you feel for refinance or a new home. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan.
Chat Mortgage is powered by Almeida Mortgage Corporation, NMLS number 271603. Chat Mortgage is located at 6650 East Brainerd Road, Suite 208 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Phone number 423-591-9801. Trevor Shaw, NMLS number 929-381.